Warning, the following material is extremely disturbing. On Grave Matter, we try to be as accurate as possible and we collect information from many different sources. We don't condone or glorify murder, and we try to be as sensitive as possible to victims and their families while approaching a serious subject matter with a sense of humor. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the fourth episode of our wonderful journey into the mind of serial killers here at the Grave Matter. Today we're going to be carrying on with our conversation about Dean Corll, which from Jill Gentry over here, as well as talking about Angel Resendez, who's just an absolutely wonderful example of a terrible human being. Anyways, we're so glad that you could join us today, and we're happy to be here. Let's kick this thing off, shall we?
Hey guys, I'm back with more of Dean Corll and his shitty little sidekicks, Henley and Brooks. I hope you haven't had enough of them yet. So, where we ended last time, Corll he went through a period of no activity, no killings.
He lied dormant for, what was it, a few months?
Yeah, February to June. So, not a whole hell of a long... I mean, I've gone a lot longer than that without killing a bunch of fucking people, so... So it was a hiccup in time, I guess. But after that period, his cooling off period, his shit just got real. Like it got ramped up, it got worse.
Wow.
And it got more frequent, actually.
Well, as fucked up as it sounds, I'm really interested to dive into the details of it and see what happened.
His ass didn't even get very far into June. Like June 4th, he was like, all right, that's enough.
Wow.
So on June 4th, Henley and Corll, they abducted a 15-year-old named William Ray Lawrence. They kept him for 3 days and abused him, tortured him, and all that comes with that. He was eventually strangled and buried at Lake Sam Rayburn. Don't know why I couldn't remember how to speak for a minute, but
That's okay. So that was the first victim that was buried at the lake then? Because you said there were three locations, right? There's the boat shed, you guys know from last week. It's been said multiple times. The boat shed, there was the beach, right? High Island Beach. Mm-hmm. And then now there's this lake. The lake. And this is the third location, right?
Yeah.
Is this the first one that happened there?
I don't think so. I think he had... That's paperwork from last week, fool.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that he had buried some there. Maybe not. I don't know. But either way, after those 3 days of unimaginable torture... He was strangled and he was buried at Lake Sam Rayburn. 2 weeks later, Raymond Stanley, 20 years old, was abducted and strangled. They buried him at the lake as well. On July 6th of 1973, Homer Lewis, an acquaintance of Henley, called his mother to tell her that he would be spending the night with a friend. He was shot and left to bleed to death in Corll's bathtub before being buried at the lake.
In his own bathtub? Jesus Christ.
It makes me wonder if he had called, if he called his mother, if he had told her the name of this friend, would he be alive today? You know what I mean? Like,
jeez.
You know, just that simple, I'm staying with a friend and not going further into it.
Detail.
Yeah. I mean, because if Henley had known, well, he knows... His mother or whatever knows where he's at, then I have to make sure he gets back. You know what I mean?
That's what's so interesting about this to me is like,
it's just little twists of fate, you know?
Yeah, and it's obviously murder is such a terrible subject, but there's so many listeners and so many people that are interested in the subject, and I think the reason for that is just you look into it and you're like, what makes these people's mind works? Little quirks like that. What if one thing was changed? Would the entire history be different? You know what I mean? It's so interesting to think about to me.
So say that his accomplice's parents had been paying any kind of fucking attention, they would have known.
Hey, here's $800. By the way, like 6 of my friends are missing. You think there's some red flags.
So what's up with this guy you're spending all your fucking time with? I mean, my teenage son spending time with an adult and staying the weekend and going on trips with him. Like, I don't think so.
And that would actually be $1,200, by the way.
it's insane to me. I mean, a lot of lives could have been saved if just one of these people had slipped up in any way. It was just kind of like a shitty fate, you know?
Yeah, and the guy I was talking about last week was, I mean, I feel the same way, that there was so much that happened and there was like no witnesses, like nobody saw him, or that one guy saw him, but he was told to put it to bed by the police. Like what? Like that's unbelievable.
We're not in a place to take that kind of information right now, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ridiculous.
So after Homer met his end in the bathtub of Corll's apartment building, 5 days after that, 17-year-old John Sellers was bound, shot to death, and buried back at High Island Beach. Back to the beach.
Back to the beach.
It sounds like a more fun thing than it is.
It sure does. Have you seen that? What is it, like a meme? Or it's not a meme, I don't know, but it says, if you haven't heard of either one of them, waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay sounds like a lot of fun.
That's true. I know what it is. I know what it is, so it's not something I'm interested in, but it probably wouldn't be hard to talk a kid into it.
Jesus Christ. That's awesome. Oh, that's fantastic.
So here we go. In July of 1973, Brooks married his pregnant fiance. So
what?
Yeah.
This guy had a girlfriend.
The accomplice, yeah.
And a fiance.
And a baby.
And a baby. That's unfucking believable to me.
Doesn't seem like the right atmosphere to bring a child into the world, but
it doesn't seem like. It reminds me of that Eminem song. How the fuck could I raise a little girl? I couldn't. I wouldn't be fit to. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. How the hell?
I don't know.
And his wife had no idea?
Yeah. Well, according to this. So Brooks married his pregnant fiance, and then, of course, Henley became the sole proprietor. I don't know. He was the one that was in charge to collect the victims from then on out, because Brooks had his own real life.
He was promoted to executive officer.
Yeah. So after that, Henley helped Corll.
So that's it. He didn't try and kill him or anything. He was just like, all right, well, have a great life with your family.
He's like, cool deal. Here's a check. Buy something nice for the baby. I don't know.
That's absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah. I mean, I
cannot think of a better word.
It seems like he just kind of let him go off about it.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So after that, Henley assisted in the abduction of 3 more youths between July 19th and July 25th. So just in that week and a half or whatever, he killed 3 more. So Michael Balch, 15, was strangled and buried at Lake Sam Rayburn. Charles Cobble and Marty Ray Jones were abducted together on July 25th, and both of their bodies were later found in the boat shed.
Wow. Back to the boat shed.
It's feeling like a boat shed kind of day, guys.
I mean, yeah, how do you make those? You said earlier, probably just depending on where it took place.
I guess, but
proximity to that's how it was for my guy. They
maybe
asked
he just
him,
had other errands to run in the neighborhood.
For me, the guy was, Carl Watts or whatever. They said, why did you put her in the dumpster? And he was like, well, it was just right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only explanation I have. I can't, unless, Dean's like, hey, I got to run by and pay the electric bill real quick. And I'm going to stop by the pawn shop and see if I can find an electric drill. While we're out, I'm going to swing by the boat shed because I think that's closer than the beach. Yeah, we're going to drop off this guy.
They have to do it as quick as possible.
Yeah, I guess so.
I would think.
I don't know what his method is, but he got away with it a lot of times. So whatever it was working, unfortunately. So here we go with this. Get ready for this shit.
I'll strap on my seatbelt.
July of 1973, Dean Corll killed his last victim.
Dum, dum, dum.
13-year-old boy named James Stanton Dramala. He was abducted by Corll and Brooks while riding his bike. The way they got him to come back with them is they basically told him he was collecting glass bottles to recycle for money, for like extra money, and they told him they had a bunch of bottles. Like, can you imagine? You got killed because you were promised
that would
$4 worth of fucking garbage to sell. Like,
oh man,
that's awful.
Yeah,
just trying to make a little money, So after they abducted him, they got him back to the place.
Where did they take him? So they grabbed him. They were like, "Hey, we have a bunch of empty bottles for you." And he was
It was
like,
always
"Sweet,
Dean Corll's house. It was always his apartment or wherever he was living, and he moved so many times. I think I counted like 5 or 6 times he moved.
Okay.
And these were just during the times he was murdering people, which was 3 years. Mm-hmm. Like he lived in one place for 3 months. You know what I mean?
He makes 3 years seem like a long time.
He does, though. I mean, he got shit done. There was no procrastinating in his killing game. You know what I mean? Like he just went one after another. So he was raped, tortured, and strangled before being buried at, guess,
the boat shed.
The boat shed.
Damn.
All right. So August 7th, 1973.
That's probably somebody's birthday in my family.
Maybe.
So everybody is born in August. So.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So Henley at that point was he was 17 years old. He invited 19-year-old Timothy Cordell Curley to attend a party at Corll's residence, to which he accepted. They arrived at the residence and huffed paint, and they drank alcohol, and then they got hungry and they left to go get sandwiches. Yeah.
This is where the sandwiches thing came from earlier.
If he'd have just stayed at the fucking Subway and been like, it's been a long night already, I think I'm going to go to the house, he would be alive.
Jill started laughing to herself, doing her research, like hysterically laughing. And I was like, what the hell are you laughing at? And she was like, sandwich. I was like, what? And I guess it was this part. I don't know why you were laughing. What was it? It was like a typo?
I accidentally typed sandwiched, so they left to get sandwiched.
That's what you were laughing at?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Simple minds, simple pleasures.
Yep. I'm with you.
So they went and got sandwiches, and when they returned, they had actually brought along a friend of Curly's, a 15-year-old girl named Rhonda Williams.
Weird.
Yeah, so evidently they ran into Rhonda. They ran into her, and her father was at home drunk and beating her ass, and she left to get out of the situation, and she ran into them. And so Curly was like, hey, why don't you come with us? We're going over to Dean's house, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay, fine. I don't have anywhere else to be. So they went. Well, Dean was fucking furious.
'Cause it was a girl.
It was a girl. He actually pulled Henley into the other room and told him, you've ruined everything. How the fuck did you bring a girl here? Why would you bring a girl to my house? And Henley tried to defuse the situation. He told Dean the story that the girl had gotten into an argument with her father, and he was drunk, and she couldn't go back home right then.
Damn.
So Curly had actually invited her along. And when he told Dean this, Dean accepted it, and he seemed to calm down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So Corll took him into the living room, and he offered him weed and alcohol. They huffed paint, and they got messed up, and they all eventually passed out. So fasten your fucking seatbelts, because when Henley woke up, Corll was in the process of handcuffing him. Had his hands behind his back.
Oh, he was like, okay, yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
This honestly does not surprise me at all.
No. He's his type.
I was going to say, back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So Henley struggled and begged to be released. Corll explained to him that he had brought this on himself and he should have known better than to bring a girl back to his house. He told him that all 3 of them were going to die that night, but not until he had his fun first.
You done fucked up, Aaron.
Yeah. He planned on torturing Curly and Henley and then killing the 3 of them and disposing of their bodies. So Henley, trying anything he could think of, pleaded to be released and told Corll, if you'll uncuff me, I'll participate. I'll help. I'll help in the killing and disposal of these. And that actually worked. Corll agreed and he released him. He instructed Henley to cut Williams' clothes off and rape and torture her while he did the same thing to Curly. So as Corll began to abuse Curly, Williams gained consciousness. The girl, Rhonda, she came out of it and she asked Henley, is this for real? Is this real? Like, what's going on? And he replied, yes, it's real. And she asked if he had any plans on helping them or doing anything about it. And at that point, jeez. Henley looked to Corll and he asked if he could take Williams into the other room to do what he was supposed to do. And Corll ignored him. That's when Henley took the opportunity to snatch Corll's gun. Henley pointed the gun at Corll and screamed, I can't go on with this any longer. I can't have you killing all of my friends. Corll climbed off of Curly and advanced in Henley's direction, yelling, kill me, Wayne. You won't do it. Henley fired 1 shot into Corll's forehead, which failed to penetrate his skull.
What?
So it just pissed him
He's
off.
fucking Iron Man?
I
What
guess.
is this
It bounced
bullshit?
off his hard-ass head.
What?
So Corll continued
What? He
to... like-
deflected a bullet?
Yeah.
Okay, it's obviously a 22.
Yeah, but I mean, that's still a shit your pants moment when
Dude, can you imagine? Dink. He's like, do it again. Just
Yeah.
like, oh my God. It's like the Terminator.
I'm already tripping on the fact that there's a naked madman coming at me,
Yeah, true.
you know, and I just shot him and he's still coming towards
And
me.
it just deflected off of his head.
I would shit myself out of that room.
Dude,
no
seriously.
fucking way.
Just shoot yourself.
No.
Done.
No, I would right out of the place. So
Holy shit.
yeah, so Dean continued to advance on Henley, and Henley fired 2 more shots into Corll's shoulder, and Corll fled the room. But once he left the room, he actually collided with the wall in the hallway and felt like he just kind of slammed into the wall, and Henley started just plugging him, like shooting him, and he shot him 3 more times in the lower back and the shoulder, and Corll's naked body slumped to the ground, and he died naked facing the wall of the hallway.
Damn. So he was successfully shot him.
Oh, he killed his ass, graveyard dead. Henley released the 2 teens bound in the other room, and he called the police. Now get this shit.
Mm-hmm.
He told the dispatcher, "Y'all better get over here quick. I just shot a man." You can actually listen to the tape, like the tapes
Yeah.
of this. And he called his mom too. I heard that tape a while back, but he says, "Y'all better get over here quick. I just shot a man." So these 3 teenagers, after all this shit, are just standing on the front porch waiting for the police to get there.
Interesting.
Henley's standing there, and he just kind of looks over at Curly, and he goes, "You know, I've only shot somebody to death like 4 or 5 times before now. Like that's
I'm pretty new to this, guys. All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
Just
Forgive me for the mess. Like
I know, seriously.
you know, it
So-
wasn't like I've never done this before. It was like I've only done this like maybe half a dozen times. So cut me some slack on
Jesus
my
Christ.
fucking cluster pattern or whatever they call that shit.
Seriously. And you remember last week when I said, when we talk about these guys, the accomplices, I have a little bit more information, right? And
My
good
bad.
job. So I have a little bit more information. And what I was going to say is that I worked with a girl. I didn't actually work with her. She worked at the business next to mine, but it was like a gas station, like a convenience store. I always used to go in there and, get shit. And then we wound up talking one time, and I was actually talking about maybe launching this podcast with you. And then we talked about, some of the people we might be researching, and Dean Corll. And she was like, "Oh, my cousin killed Dean Corll. It was, look up Henley," and I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, that's my cousin, seriously." And I was like, holy shit. So, I mean, I thought it was just pretty interesting that, I don't see a reason why she would be lying about it. You know what I mean? I really
Yeah.
don't. So, she's kind of crazy. But
Well, I mean, her cousins.
Kinda
crazy,
It kind of
too.
matches the fucking description.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder how many of our listeners. Hopefully, we get enough listeners one
Oh,
day where they
God.
can call in or like email us and say like, "Well, fuck my dad went to high school with John Wayne Gacy."
Yeah.
Or,
I'm
or
sure.
went on a
Because
date,
those stories are everywhere.
or
You
went
know
on a
what I
date
mean?
with Ted Bundy, or like
Oh, shit.
you were a lucky bitch. That's all I got to
You know what I'm
say.
saying? Seriously. I survived.
Yeah. So later on, basically, Henley also told Curly, he goes, "If we weren't such close friends, I could have made $200 off of you tonight. Take that to the bank."
Jesus Christ, that's terrifying. Because then you're like, oh, $200 is, a lot of money back then for them, for a broke family. But it's like you're instantly putting a value on these people's lives, and that weighs on his conscience, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, because
the buildup of emotion in this one guy's soul that led to this moment of him like changing his mind and and just killing the serial killer instantly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, still, he's super, super fucking guilty. So what happened to Henley? Or I guess you'll talk about that when we get there, right?
yeah. Well, as they put Henley into the car, the officer who was arresting him started to read him his Miranda rights.
Mm-hmm.
And Henley interrupted him and he yelled, "I don't care who knows. I can't live with this anymore." So they took him into custody.
Mm-hmm.
And while at the Pasadena Police Department in custody, they questioned Henley about the events leading up to him shooting Dean Corll. He claimed it was self-defense, which I think is pretty fair at considering the circumstances at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So he claimed self-defense, and once he explained what happened, and it was corroborated by Curley and Williams, the detective started to believe his story that it was self-defense.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, I mean, he was a pretty horrible human being, but...
That's where my brain's at. I'm like, well, I mean, call me crazy, but, I think, he's pretty guilty.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, though. I really do, or I understand where he's coming from, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he actually spilled his guts pretty soon after that. He told the police that for the last 3 years he had been helping Brooks kidnap teenagers.
So he said it was self-defense, but he was completely honest about everything that happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
He told them all
I'll fuck
the,
with a plea bargain on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he just threw Brooks under the bus like nothing. Like Brooks
Yeah, I
wasn't
bet.
there for the other killing or any of that. Mm-hmm. But he told
By the
the
way,
truth.
I don't mean to cut you off, Jill, but we are recording in an aviary, it sounds like. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
We'll see if those birds pick up anywhere.
they are for sure.
Yeah.
And they're really redundant. Like they're trying to get.
Oh, man.
They're not even saying different shit. They're just saying the same shit over and over again.
Does anybody want to fuck me? Does anybody want to fuck me? I mean,
Do you have any seeds? Do
Animal-
you have any seeds?
Animal Kingdom shit.
But so Henley basically came clean. He told them everything that had happened over the past 3 years. He did say that he believed he was kidnapping these kids. I keep saying kids. I mean, I guess they're kids compared to us, but
Yeah, they are.
he admitted to everything, and he said, "Well, I thought I was kidnapping these kids for Dean to sell into like a sex slavery ring,
See, that's the shit I'm talking about.
as if that would make it better."
Right? Like, okay, self-defense my ass. Like,
Yeah.
He's like, well, look, I just thought they were going to get raped and then sent to, Africa or whatever. I don't know.
Well, he assumed that they would be probably killed. I mean, he said they possibly would be killed later. I was told that they were going to be sold into sex slavery and possibly tortured and killed later. I don't know if he thought that was going to redeem him in some way, but it's probably still not nice things to do.
Yeah. I mean, what was the response from the law enforcement? Did they treat him better because of that?
I doubt it considerably. It was probably slack-jawed shock. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't believe him, first of all.
Okay.
So he was telling them all this stuff, and he said, and he admitted that even after he found out that it was Dean Corll that was doing these things and killing these kids, he
Continued.
continued to still go and
Because there was that one time where he fucking walked in on it, right, with Brooks? Or was it the other way around?
it was the other way around.
Okay, yeah. So he fucking knew.
Oh yeah, and he participated. I mean, he said that, quote,
That's how he bought groceries.
he had participated in the
Literally.
torture and mutilation of 6 or 8 of them prior to their murder.
Yeah.
So the fact that he might have in the beginning thought that it wasn't Dean that was going to do these things is
Lightweight.
really irrelevant.
Yeah, totally. That's fucking stupid.
So, I mean, do with that what you will. But the police didn't believe him. They thought, they were really skeptical about it. Mm-hmm. And then they started to piece together things. For instance, Henley admitted that in order to prove his story, he said that he had helped kidnap Cobble, Hildegeist, and Jones, the 3 of the teens that had been abducted. Mm-hmm. And they were actually reported missing at that particular police station. And if you'll remember, Hildegeist is the one that was friends with Henley.
Yeah, that's right.
And he tried to help pass out flyers and all of that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's that one. Okay.
so they were like, okay, maybe this holds some water. So, and then to top it off, they started looking at the evidence at the crime scene where they found Corll's body, where he was shot. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that tells its own story.
Yeah, because that was a very specific set of events that unfolded for that to take place. How he was almost killed and then talked his way out of it, and I'll help you. Right? That's how that story went. Right?
Right.
So he was
Yeah.
like, I'll help you if you let me go. And
Yeah.
at that point, the evidence tells a different story. Right? So.
Well, it tells a
Or
pretty
a very
damning
specific story.
Yeah. So the police were looking at the evidence that was collected from the crime scene, and it started to click together for them because they'd found things like thick black plastic sheeting. They found a large piece of plywood, which had handcuffs attached to the top, which is what Corll used to subdue these boys or, keep them still. Nylon cords were on the bottom of the plywood. They found large hunting knives. They found lots of rolls of more plastic sheeting. They found tons of rope. They found sex toys. And they found a radio that was rigged to to operate louder, like increase the volume. I guess probably to cover up screams or any noise that the victims would be making for anybody that lived nearby or whatever. They found an electric motor with wires attached. I don't know what that's about.
I'm like,
well, if he was using it to shock them or something, as part of his torture. They found thin glass tubes and lots of lengths of rope. And also in the Corll had an Econoline van, which they might as well just, his vanity plate should have said serial killer on it.
I feel like we're going to be talking about white Ford Econoline vans over and over in this fucking podcast because it's like so obvious. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's a van that pulls up, don't fucking get in it. No. Ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for no reason.
Ever.
It's just not good. I mean, those things are for, they have to be marketed basically for serial killers and old traveling couples that want to sleep in their van. I mean, that's pretty much what they're used for.
That's all I've seen, other than commercial vehicles that show up to put cable in and fix your toilet.
Yeah, but those typically don't have blue curtains hanging in the back to obscure your view of what's going on inside.
They do if you're in San Antonio.
They do if you have people tied down in the back of your van.
Yeah.
So in the driveway, they looked through his van. It had the blue curtains in the rear windows. It had more rope. It had a piece of beige carpet covered in soil stains. They also found a wooden crate in there that had holes drilled into the sides. I guess probably they put it over their heads to keep them quiet, and the holes were for air. They found a pegboard rigged with several rings and hooks.
Jesus Christ.
And also, in the backyard they found another crate with holes drilled into it.
And we're about to get into some very, very disturbing material about what some of this stuff was used for, right?
Yeah.
It's tough to talk about, but fuck, it's interesting, man.
Yeah, the boxes that had the holes drilled into them, actually, they found tons of human hair in them. So that's a pretty good indication. That's probably what they did.
Yeah.
There was, I think, the toolbox killer or maybe another killer that used the same kind of approach, I guess. They picked up a hitchhiker and they put her head in a box that was lined with carpet to kind of soundproof it until they got her to where they wanted to keep her. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ.
So that sounds like a tactic used by more than one serial killer.
I'm telling you, man, there's got to be like a dark web network of conversations that go on between these people, especially with the Texas killing fields and, the similarities between, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes I just wonder,
There's got to be some kind of a little network of, instructional, directions on stuff like that.
Get your free DVD today.
Yeah, right, exactly. So Henley he agreed to accompany the police to search for victims.
Okay.
And the first place he took him obviously was the boat shed.
Yeah. Oh God.
So that had to be a nightmare in its own. So in the boat shed itself, when you walked in, it just looked like a boat shed, but there was things stored in there that were questionable. Mm-hmm. So besides,
like what do you mean?
They had a half-stripped car that had been stolen from a car lot.
Okay.
But that was the least suspicious thing they had in there, if that's possible. So
I believe it in this situation.
Yeah. They also found 2 large bags of boys' clothes. They found 2 sacks of lime and the car. So, but I mean, that's pretty suspicious.
Yep.
All said and done.
Anything other than a fucking boat. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. Yeah. I don't know how anybody was just like, this guy's been renting this shed for a few years now, and I've yet to see a fucking boat. Was it Dahmer's fridge where they found like human meat? Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, it's just like beef. And she was like,
pork or whatever.
Yeah. And she was like, I'm a housewife. That's not fucking pork, you dumbass. Like,
yeah.
Same shit. Just bags of boys' clothes. Like, that's just in case their clothes get wet on the boat.
I play dress up on the weekends.
Guilty.
Yeah.
And I can only fucking imagine because I've heard so many stories about decomposing bodies. And in the research of this, my dad being a physician, telling me about medical school and some of the stories he's heard from nurses and paramedics. There was one, story he told me where there was one dead person in a house, 10, 20 days, something like that. And the neighbors called complaining of a smell. And when the police showed up, the entire front of the house looked black because it was covered in flies.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that's how bad it was. This guy had how many fucking bodies in the boat shed, though?
Too fucking many.
Too many. It was so many that he had to start, he'd dig his 6-foot hole. And then he's like, shit, I guess I got to do a 4-foot hole in this next one because there's no more room. And he would have the stacked bodies.
Yeah.
I can only imagine August in Texas, swampy, unearthing all these bodies.
Closed quarters. You know how Texas is.
Imagine.
No breeze.
Yeah, I can't
It would
even.
have had to been like.
And this is like more Louisiana, Texas. You know what I mean? This is like
Swampy,
dead,
humid,
swampy
shitty
air. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not interested in any kind of field trip that ends like that. Like that's pretty,
Not at all.
pretty rough. But basically, what they did, I guess, it's kind of smart. They enlisted the help of like some prison trustees to dig these bodies up.
Yeah.
The police are like, nah, fucking way, So
Like prisoners?
yeah, they.
The trustees, like the good prisoners.
Yeah.
Like, y'all go.
That doesn't seem like a reward to me.
It doesn't seem like a fucking.
I guess. I mean,
I don't know, dude. I'd do it. I wouldn't dig that shit up.
yeah. I don't know.
I'm like, who here's murderers? Y'all come with me. We
Yeah.
got some shit to do today. You know
Ain't
what
nothing
I mean?
you're not used to. Just come on, put on your big girl panties. Let's do this. So they took the prison trustees out there to search for the bodies, and it wasn't very long. And they found the first one. It was a blonde boy.
bet.
Yeah, he was a blonde boy laying on his side, covered in a layer of lime. And after that discovery, they began finding more and more teenage boys. And a lot of them still had like the ligatures around their necks. Like he killed them and then just dumped them, like without even, he didn't do anything else. He just left the rope around their neck.
And you'll find that that's super common. It's like as soon as it's done, you're like, oh shit,
Like, I'm finished with this.
done.
That's like me at a restaurant. It's the fucking worst thing in the world to me
Yeah.
is to finish eating and then have to wait for the bill and all that shit. I'm like, today, motherfuckers, let's. Okay. So, this next portion I've been dreading for a while now after I read it. This is real talk. This is where the shit hits the fan.
And this is where listener discretion really is advised.
Yeah, if you're
this is
sensitive.
tough shit, guys.
This is some pretty gnarly details. So if you want to skip this part, maybe cut the volume down. If you have any kids with you, cut the volume down.
Yeah, definitely. Strap on your fucking seatbelt.
Give it about a minute, a couple minutes maybe. Check it out again. But this is the condition that the bodies were found in. This is what they determined happened to them.
Okay.
And it's not a pretty picture to be painted. So all of the victims had been sodomized. They showed evidence of sexual torture. He had plucked pubic hairs just for prolonged torture. The genitals were chewed up. Chewed and removed in some cases, put in plastic bags and just tossed in on top of the body when
While
they
they
buried
were
him.
alive.
Likely. I mean, I think that's probably his whole deal. That's his favorite part. So
Chewed up?
yeah, he had chewed them up.
Like thoroughly? Like, fuck.
Well, with his mouth. That's pretty thorough.
Shit.
So they had foreign objects inserted into their rectums. They had glass rods inserted into their urethras and smashed.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So you're saying those little glass rods they found were inserted into somebody's penis, and then he would hit their penis and
break it.
and shatter the glass inside of it.
Yes. That
Heard.
a whole new level. They had some of the bodies still had like cloth rags that had been shoved into their mouths and taped over to smother their screams, to keep anybody from hearing them. So on that day, that's the end of that.
That's hard to hear.
It is. It's hard to say. So on that particular day, when they went to the boat shed or whatever, they uncovered 8 bodies.
8?
8 on just that day.
Oh my God.
So.
And that was what? One of 3 locations for him, right?
Yeah, that was one of 3 that they know of.
That they know of,
Right.
by the way. Corll.
So on that evening, David Brooks, accompanied by his father, presented himself at the Houston police station. Of course, so Henley admitted straight up front what they did.
Yeah.
How he was involved.
He was honest the whole time.
How Brooks was involved.
Kind
Brooks
of.
came in and said, "Bullshit! I didn't do nothing. I didn't do anything. I wasn't involved in this." He just said the only thing he'd known about was that he had walked in on Corll raping 2 boys in 1970. That time when he walked in, he caught him the first time he caught him in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. He said that was his only involvement. He came over there. He caught him doing that.
Bullshit. He raped Henley, right? Didn't they like assist with raping Henley?
Brooks helped trap him to do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, Brooks was working for Corll long before Henley started working for him. So for him to say, I wasn't involved at all. I just saw
bullshit.
I just walked in on this and I didn't say anything. That's the only thing I'm guilty of. But the next day, Henley submitted his statement in writing, and he included all of Brooks' involvement. He included all of his involvement. He officially claimed he had murdered 9 people on his own. Henley.
Wow.
He admitted to 9. And he had also assisted Dean Corll in the strangulation of some other victims. And he said, basically, in his statement that there was only 3 murders that Brooks was not directly involved in. 3 abductions and murders, and that's when...
In Henley's statement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when he got engaged or whatever. Remember when Brooks got engaged and he stopped for a while?
Yeah.
Those were the only 3...
For a quick second.
Yeah, those were the only 3 that he wasn't involved in. So that afternoon, Henley took the police to Lake Sam Rayburn.
Spot number 2.
Spot number 2. They uncovered an additional 4 bodies and a lots of more implements of torture and disposal.
It's unreal because to me, it's a body count. There's 8 here. There's 4 here. Each instance of this is a fucking life, man. This is a whole life. And when we talk about Angel, we'll talk about people that were 87 years old and murdered. And I'm like, 87 years. Imagine the scope of influence that person had on so many people for so long. And each one of these is a to the heart story. It's unbelievable. You almost lose the importance of it with such a high number,
Yeah, you have to kind of think about it like somebody who's killed like this. There's, birthdays and anniversaries, siblings, parents,
and their
coworkers, kids, friends. There's so many things impacted by just this one person being taken. It's, it's not unlike when somebody dies of natural causes or of old age, but it's a lot different. It's a lot different than just passing away in your sleep or an illness or something. This is somebody who
there's no goodbyes. This is it's a traumatic. It's like a car accident almost, except it's more violent and intent. And it's like, man, I can't even imagine. We've had some murders in the family. Through extended family that haven't been solved. Maybe we'll do an episode on it, but in Washington State. But it's absolutely fucking terrifying for one person. I can't imagine.
Well, I mean,
this many.
It's just unbelievable to think that these lives came to an end based on somebody's conscious decision to end them. You know what I mean? It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't fate, or it wasn't. And
with that level of torture.
Yeah. That's
what goes into somebody's fucking head. I mean, that's, that's like Vietnam torture, the Viet Cong would insert bamboo shoots into American soldiers' penises. And, my dad as a doctor would have patients. My dad worked for the Army for a while as a doctor, as a civilian contractor. And he had Vietnam veterans that had been tortured that were still having problems with various parts of their body because of torture. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think that this guy was on that level with kids in our own backyard. Which I
Not the
saying.
backyard.
Not the backyard again.
Backyard's a dangerous damn place.
Obviously. Don't move to Texas.
Yeah, please.
And that's for... Yeah, we'll leave that at that.
So basically, Henley told about, all of their involvement. He said that there was only 3 that Brooks wasn't involved in. And then he took the police to Lake Sam Rayburn and found the four more victims. I already said all this. You want to edit that out?
I mean, whatever.
Okay.
What's next?
So later that day, after those discoveries at Lake Sam Rayburn, the police returned to the boat shed. I don't know what their method is here of hopping back and forth, but they went back to the boat shed and uncovered another 9 bodies.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Pause the fucking podcast. 8 plus 4 returned another 9?
Another 9. And that would be plenty if that was all, but it's not. So
And we're not even talking about the fucking beach yet.
No. So that evening, David Brooks actually provided the police with a confession that he had been present for several of the murders, and he helped to bury many of the victims. But he still maintained that he did not have any involvement with the murders or torture himself.
Bullshit.
This is a quote from Brooks.
Now, what'd he say?
He said, "Once they were on that board, they were as good as dead. It was all over but the shouting and crying."
Fuck.
Yeah.
And at this point, how big is the boat shed? Like, what's like? I mean, we're in kind of like a shed building right now. I can't imagine it would be much bigger than this. What do you think this is like?
I've seen pictures of it. And
14 by 8. You know what I mean? Something like that.
I don't know.
I can't imagine.
Didn't bring my tape measure.
17 bodies.
Yeah, I mean,
I think 14 by 8 is a pretty good guess. We'll get a tape measure out later.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But
I didn't bring my measuring tools.
yeah. 17 bodies in one location, followed by 4 in another location, and we haven't even touched the third location yet.
Yeah, and then, so that's when Brooks basically he assisted in the search at the third location at High Island Beach.
Yeah.
The next day, 2 more victims were uncovered at Lake Sam Rayburn and High Island Beach, all with the same evidence of torture and rape. On August 13, both Brooks and Henley returned to High Island Beach, where they discovered another 4 victims, bringing the total body count to 27, which at the time was the worst killing spree in history.
Yeah.
Henley actually claimed that there were at least 4 more bodies that they never uncovered. So 27 is the confirmed total, but Henley says there's 4 more.
No shit.
Yeah. So basically, after all of that, Brooks and Henley were tried separately for their crimes. Obviously, Corll, he got the easy way out. He didn't have to face any of his crimes. He was
Killed instantly.
killed, yeah. Henley was formally charged with the murders of 6 youths, which I don't understand because he admitted to 9.
Well, it's an evidence-based thing, you know? It's like Edward Harold Bell with the fucking Texas killing fields. He's like, I killed all 11 of them, or 12. And they were like, they didn't charge him with any of them.
Yeah.
They were like, there's not enough evidence.
Right.
So.
Well, so basically, Henley was found guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to serve a 99-year sentence for each victim.
Each? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a total of 594 years.
I'm not too optimistic.
I don't think he'll make it. I mean, he'll try like hell, but...
Unless he's fucking David Blaine or some shit.
And he appealed. He appealed, and he was granted a retrial in June of 79. Guess how that turned out?
Guilty?
Yeah, guess what? He was charged with 99-year sentence for each body. Time well spent, motherfucker.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do in that case, you know.
Yep. Brooks was tried for 4 murders and found guilty. He was given a life sentence and showed no emotion when the verdict was handed down. But his new bride, his wife at the time, burst into tears in court. He also appealed.
Wait. The same bride?
Uh-huh.
They were still married?
Stand by your man. So both Brooks and Henley are sitting in prison in Texas right now. And if you ask me, I think Dean Corll got off really easy on this whole thing.
Yeah.
That's probably how he would have chosen to have it happen.
I feel like the mental torture of going, being on death row or having life in prison is infinitely more than an instant death, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
And I think he deserved it.
He
Personally,
deserved a lot
he did
more
get
than
the
what
easy
he
way
got.
out. Yeah. We had who was killed yesterday? The guy that dragged the black guy, the racist.
John King.
John William King.
Yeah.
John William King was executed last night. And we record this on different dates, but he was executed last night here in Texas, and I can only imagine, I mean, I was following our because you posted that thing in the morning about he's going to be executed tonight, and I remember just thinking to myself, what if it was my last day, and like going through the mental, trying to put myself in his shoes and going through the mental exhaustion of living your last day. He didn't give a shit, I don't think, but
he didn't. From what I understand, he didn't feel any remorse. He just tried to get out of it. He tried to.
Yeah. I wasn't even there. Yeah, bullshit.
He tried to get his day of execution. They even executed him late because he was still trying.
Yeah.
I mean, he was trying to claw his way away from that.
Right. So I think he was pronounced dead at 7:03 p.m. Central Time last night.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Tough shit for you.
Rest in pieces. I have absolutely no sympathy for people like that. He for those of you who don't know, this guy was in Jasper, Texas, and he drug a black man behind his pickup truck for several miles, and him and two other guys. So the other one was one of them was executed in 2011, and the other one I don't really know.
I think he's in prison.
Life in prison, I think.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah, man, just thinking about that, I feel like Corll really got off fucking easy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially because he was killed by his own friend.
If there's any justice, he's getting cornholed by the devil right about now. So
let's hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion.
I think he got off way too easy on that one.
Yeah.
That deal.
So that's Corll, Henley, and Brooks, huh? I mean, that's a God, what a fucking story that is.
It's a rough handful there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're going to move on to Angel Resendez, but honestly, that took up way more time than we expected. So, I mean, I'm so sorry to do this, but we're definitely going to push Angel Resendez back to next week so we can have a full episode on him. I'm so sorry to do that. But ultimately, we want to give him the attention to detail that somebody of that caliber deserves, in my opinion. Yeah, it was a wonderful episode. Before I close out here, there's a couple things I wanted to touch up on. Jill, this is super weird, but you guys remember episode 2, the Texas killing fields? We have some pretty fucking significant updates regarding that. And I know it's episode 4, but in the end of episode 4, but still, I feel like we had to mention it. So real quick, you guys remember talking about, and Jill, you remember this Edward Harold Bell? That's the old guy that admitted to killing, was 11 or 12 of those girls? Mm-hmm. He fucking died.
Good.
Okay, so, rest in pieces. No, he did die. He died was it 2 weeks ago at this point? We record, obviously, at different times, but I think it was 2 weeks ago, and he was walking in the jail, and he just collapsed. So, Edward Harold Bell is dead. And I remember in the episode, we were like, I don't know if he's dead or alive. I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
We know
now. As soon as
now.
I looked into it, he freaking died. I'd like to think that we played some part in ending that terrible tragedy, but God only knows, right?
Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I don't think it does justice. He just collapsed and died. That was easy. Too easy. He was playing life on easy at that point. But that's one of the updates. Another one of the updates, and this is, I spoke to a family member who wishes to remain anonymous. You know who you are. Who actually lived next door to Heidi Villarreal-Fai's family. As you recall, Heidi Villarreal-Fai was one of the victims of the Texas killing fields, and I didn't know this, but I lived with this family member for a while, which is definitely going to narrow down who I'm talking about, but that's okay. Little did I know that Heidi's sister and daughter lived next door.
Trippy.
Yeah, and I've heard that their life is very troublesome, and there's a lot of details that I'm not going to go into just out of respect, but it's yeah. So I can't believe that, this whole thing, we were doing this episode, and I am 100 feet away from a survivor and somebody who's a primary contact or whatever, primary source. I don't remember. I didn't do well in English. What do you call that? It's primary source, right? Help us out, guys. Somebody who was directly related to a victim of the killing. So, small world, to say the least. And
yeah, I think that's just what you call it.
Yeah,
somebody that was related to.
Okay, well, whatever. You know what? Whatever.
You know what?
And those are
you know what? You want to fight?
Yeah, sort of, but we'll probably have to put it on video so these people can see what's going on.
I don't know. It won't last long for you.
It never does. I'm just kidding. Oh, wait a minute. I'm just kidding.
It writes itself.
That was supposed to be a good thing. I think that wound up not playing in my favor. However, that's just 2 of the 3 updates. So literally all in the past week or 2, all of this has come to light. The biggest thing about this, if you recall, there were 2 bodies that were not, they were a Jane and Janet Doe. They had never been identified.
Right.
Well, that is no more. Last week, and Jill, I think you pointed this out to me. You were like, holy shit, I can't believe this just happened. Jane and Janet Doe were finally identified. The names, here we go. It's 30-year-old Audrey Lee Cook and 34-year-old Donna Prudhomme, a mother of 2. It's unbelievable that it took so long, but I'm so glad that there's going to be a little bit of closure for that family because, I mean, years and years and decades of just trying to figure this out. It's absolutely terrible. So
shout out to cousin Sean for hooking me up with that info.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate
that. Is that who?
Yeah.
Wow, that's okay. So yeah, we appreciate it, Sean. I know you're always on our stuff, and it's always good to have updates like this, especially when it's such pertinent information. So I think
relevant.
with that, we'll go ahead and close out the episode for today. Like I said, join us next week. I'm so sorry for Angel Resendez.
It's worth waiting for.
It is. You're definitely going to want to tune in for this guy. He's known as the Railway Killer, and he did some terrible things. And not only that, but there is a sole survivor of his story that is what we're going to be talking about a little bit, Holly Dunn. And she's done a lot of work for victim advocacy and things like that since then. So please stay tuned. We're so grateful that you guys have been joining us this long and putting up with us and our bad quality. I know it's gotten a lot better and it's still going to get a lot better, but we appreciate you guys so much. We've had an amazing response from the community. And fellow Marines that I've talked to, random people in the community, family members, friends, strangers. It's been fucking believable.
It's been very humbling to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you're doubting yourself and you're like, oh, we're not going to do well. And then people are like, are you kidding?
Yeah, It's been nothing but positive so far. And I mean, of course, we've had some constructive criticism. I know our first episode was really rough, but we had to kind of figure out how to get into this whole thing. But ultimately, we're just so grateful. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And we'll see you next week for Angel. In the meantime, feel free to check out our website at www.thegravematter.com. Jesus Christ, we're on everything. Yeah, I know most of you guys are on our Facebook page now. Jill always posts these today in history and these really cool stories that I've honestly learning a lot from. Yeah, of course. I know it takes a lot of time and effort. Of course, Jill wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning, so
sitting there sipping coffee and reading about killers.
Yep, and I wake up to it, and it's really cool. So, and I think you guys do too. And so check us out on our website. We're also available on Apple Podcasts for sure now, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. We're on TuneIn now, which means you can jump on Alexa and say, hey, Alexa, play the Grave Matter podcast, and she'll go ahead and read you the title and play our whole episode. So I think we're definitely on the right track here, and we love you guys. So join us next week, and we can't wait. We'll see you then for episode 5, huh?
Good night, weirdos.
Ah.